December 4th, 1969. Chicago is still asleep, the streetlights doing that soft humming thing they do in winter. A utility truck rolls up to 2337 West Monroe Street. Not a squad car, not flashing lights, just a truck that looks ordinary enough to belong to the city itself. And then the doors open. 14 officers step out in plain clothes, carrying pistols, a shotgun, and a machine gun, moving with the quiet confidence of people who already know the inside of the place they're walking into. They are not guessing where the bedrooms are. They are not asking which door belongs to who. They have a map, a floor plan that points like an arrow, leading to the room where Fred Hampton is sleeping beside his pregnant fiancée. At 4:30 a.m., the front doors kicked in, and gunfire starts ripping through an apartment where 8 people are asleep. Ballistics later show more than 90 shots fired, and here's the detail that changes the temperature of the room. In the version sold to the public that morning, the police are responding to danger. In the version the walls tell through holes, angles, and shattered plaster danger is moving in one direction. So if you want to understand why this happened, you can't start with that truck. You have to start with what Fred Hampton was building, because what was being targeted wasn't only a person, and once you see what he was putting together, you'll understand why the state treated a 21-year-old like a national emergency. But to understand why they feared him, we have to meet the version of Fred Hampton that rarely fits into a headline.
We always say in the Black Panther Party that they can do anything they want to us. We might not be back, I might be in jail, I might be anywhere. But when I leave, you can remember I said with the last words on my lips that I am a revolutionary. And you're going to have to keep on saying that. You're going to have to say that I am a proletarian. I am the people. I'm not the pig. You've got to make a distinction. And the people are going to have to attack the pigs. The people are going to have to stand up against the pigs. That's what the Panthers are doing. That's what the Panthers are doing all over the world.
Fred Hampton grew up in Maywood, Illinois, just outside Chicago. By the time he's a teenager, he's already doing the kind of work that usually belongs to people twice his age. Organizing, speaking, negotiating, pushing institutions that don't want to move. He campaigned as a youth leader with the NAACP and helped win a fight for a non-segregated pool in his hometown.
In Chicago today, 2 Black Panthers were killed as police raided a Panther stronghold. One of the dead was Fred Hampton, 22-year-old Illinois chairman of the Panthers. Bill Plant reports.
State's Attorney's police arrived at Fred Hampton's West Side apartment half a block from Panther headquarters at 4:45 this morning. They had a search warrant authorizing them to look for illegal weapons. The State's Attorney's office says its men were fired upon after identifying themselves at the door, and that Hampton and another man were killed in the 15-minute gun battle which followed. 2 policemen and 4 of the 9 people in the apartment were wounded. Hampton's body was found in bed. Panther Bobby Rush charges it was the raiding party, not the Panthers, who did the shooting.
Murder. The pigs murdered Deputy Chairman Fred Hampton while he lay in bed. I approve it. I prove it to the world that Fred Hampton was murdered by the pigs. Their lives, their argument to the people can't bear up to the evidence that we have that they murdered our Deputy Chairman in cold blood as he lay in his bed asleep.
Police displayed a cache of 14 revolvers and shotguns and about 1,000 rounds of ammunition, which they said had been taken from the apartment. Cook County State's Attorney Edward Hanrahan commended his men for bravery and restraint.
The immediate, violent, criminal reaction of the occupants in shooting at announced police officers emphasizes the extreme viciousness of the Black Panther Party. So does their refusal to cease firing at the police officers when urged to do so several times.
And then he joins the Illinois chapter of the Black Panther Party, and something accelerates, because the Panthers weren't only a symbol, they were logistics, they were schedules, they were volunteers carrying boxes of food before sunrise, they were free breakfast for children, health clinics, political education classes known as survival programs. Fred Hampton becomes a kind of translator between big ideas and everyday needs. He can talk about capitalism and policing and class, but he can also talk about what it means for a child to sit in a classroom with an empty stomach. And that combination vision plus practicality does something dangerous. It makes people believe change is not only possible but organized. In Chicago, he goes further. He starts bringing people together who are not supposed to stand in the same room. Black Panthers, the Young Lords, and the Young Patriots groups divided by race, neighborhood, and history, but united by poverty and pressure. This becomes known as the Rainbow Coalition. That word coalition sounds polite, but in the language of power, coalition means scale. It means momentum. It means a movement learning how to breathe with more than one set of lungs, and that's the part that tends to get lost. Fred Hampton wasn't only radical, he was effective, which raises the question that haunts the rest of this story. When someone like that appears young, charismatic, building bridges, who decides they have to be stopped? Because once you look at what the FBI was writing behind closed doors, you realize this wasn't just Chicago politics. There's a kind of fear that doesn't shout, it writes memos. In the late 1960s, the FBI ran the counterintelligence program, an operation aimed at disrupting, misdirecting, discrediting, or otherwise neutralizing groups seen as politically dangerous. That is the program's own language, and it matters because it describes something colder than surveillance. It describes an intention to dismantle. And inside that world of internal planning, one line stands out like a spotlight. The FBI sets a goal to prevent the rise of a messiah who could unify and electrify the militant black nationalist movement. That line is often discussed as a general statement, not aimed at one person, but by 1969, Fred Hampton fits the silhouette. He's not only speaking to black communities, he's building alliances across lines that keep poor people separated. And even critics who argue about labels tend to agree on the core reality. Hampton was becoming a national figure in the making. J. Edgar Hoover privately called the Black Panther Party the greatest threat to the internal security of the country. In other words, they aren't reacting to a crime scene, they're reacting to a future.
America, black people are treated very much as the Vietnamese people or any other colonized people, because we're brutalized. The police in our community occupy our area, our community, as a foreign troop occupies territory. And the police are there not to, in our community, not to promote our welfare or for our security and our safety, but they're there to contain us, to brutalize us and murder us. Because they have their orders to do so. And just as the soldiers in Vietnam have their orders to destroy the Vietnamese people. The police in our community couldn't possibly be there to protect our property because we own no property. They couldn't possibly be there to see that we receive the due process of law for the simple reason that the police themselves deny us the due process of law. And so it's very apparent that the police are only in our community, not for our security, but the security of the business owners in the community, and also to see that the status quo is kept intact.
People aren't hip to that yet. They're not really aware, because they know some shit's going on in this country somewhere. But a lot of people out there don't know where it's at. They think it's the black people doing it. That all those riots are causing my life to be miserable in all areas, you know. And they really haven't focused in on the fact that it's the pigs and their mentors, the people who control the pigs, the power structure, those bald-headed businessmen at the Chamber of Commerce, you see? They're not turned on to that power structure. They just know that life is becoming increasingly miserable for everybody. See? But when they find out who it is that's causing trouble, and who it is that's making life miserable, and who it is that's responsible for all their sons being murdered in Vietnam. When they get tuned into that, then they're all going to be just like the Panthers, because this is what we're tuned into. We see what's going on, and it's just a terrible, foul situation. More and more people are turning on to that, you see? So I think that they're going to do the dog right here in Babylon.
When we first started, we had a police alert patrol, and we would patrol the community. If we saw the police brutalizing anyone, we would put an end to this. Usually the police wouldn't brutalize anyone if we were on hand because we were armed, and if the police arrested the individual, we would follow him to the jail and bail the individual out, whether he was a Panther or not. And we would gain many recruits like this. So therefore the community started to say that, well, these people are really concerned about our welfare.
I think the basic reaction to a cat that like experiences a Panther, I don't mean who sees a guy go by in a black jacket or a beret. I mean a guy who sees the Panthers in action with their lives on the line. When he sees that, that's the end of it, you know, like he's either scared to death where he's gonna never commit no more crimes, do nothing wrong, you know, he's gonna jaywalk, or else he comes down and comes around and says that he can dig it, you see. You don't find a guy, black cat, just remain the same after really seeing the Panthers. The guys on the block out there, man, they never have been too impressed by America, you know, by what's been happening to them. They're not impressed by that. They don't stand in fear of the cops. And this is the reason, one of the reasons why the Panther Party focused on the cops. Because the cops are out there and they're visible, you see. And this is the direct contact of the black people with the power structure. You know, it's the man, the pig, who's going to come and bother them, you see. But the only thing that has been lacking was a method by which to really move against it effectively. And those other organizations with those programs and those non-violent tactics and those appeals to God and Allah and whoever, brothers didn't want to hear that. And so here, all of a sudden, here come two niggas with some guns, stand up in front of the cop and talk to the cop just like the cop's talking to them. You know. They check that out. They really want to know what that's about. You see? If they don't decide that their life is too precious, you know, that they must live forever. If they don't decide that, then they come a little close to the party.
And this is where the story becomes less about one night and more about a system, a government deciding that certain kinds of unity are unacceptable. It's important to be accurate here. Some details are debated and some are documented. We can confirm COINTELPRO existed, and we can confirm the FBI's stated goals, like preventing coalition building and preventing the rise of a unifying figure. What people still debate is the exact chain of intent in every decision leading to December 4th. But even the debate has boundaries because the next part is not a rumor. The next part is a floor plan. And to understand how an idea turns into an operation, you have to see how the state got inside the Panther's space without kicking the door down at first. Every movement has a vulnerability of trust. At some point, the person standing beside you at meetings might be reporting on you after the meeting ends. The person assigned to protect you might be quietly building a file on your habits, your routes, your sleeping arrangements. In Hampton's case, multiple sources describe an FBI informant within the Chicago Panthers, William O'Neill, who rose into a security role and provided information to the FBI, including a hand-drawn floor plan of Hampton's apartment that was then passed to police. That drawing is not just a detail, it's the difference between chaos and precision. Because now, imagine what it means to walk into a building at 4:30 in the morning with a map that tells you exactly where the leader sleeps. Imagine the confidence it gives you. Imagine how it changes the plan.
Party leaders Mark Clark and Fred Hampton were killed in the raid. 4 of the 7 surviving occupants of the apartment were wounded. All were charged with assault and attempted murder.
And I remember walking out of the office and looking through a little clearing over on the next block, which was right in front of the Monroe Street address, and seeing a lot of police cars over there. And at that time, Bobby Rush came to the office. He had just come from over there, or maybe the coroner's office. In any case, we walked back over there, and we both were speechless. We just walked through the house and saw what had taken place and where he died, and it was shocking. And then I just began to realize that the information that I supplied leading up to that moment had facilitated that raid. I knew that indirectly I had contributed, and I felt it, and I felt bad about it. And then I got mad, and then I had to conceal those feelings, which made it worse. I couldn't say anything. I just had to continue to play the role.
FBI headquarters authorized payment of a $300 bonus to informant William O'Neill for, quote, uniquely valuable services which he rendered over the past several months, unquote.
Some claims go further, especially around whether Hampton was drugged the night before, leaving him unable to wake properly during the attack. This point is widely repeated in public memory, and there is evidence strongly suggesting it in reporting, but it remains discussed with varying certainty depending on the source and the standard of proof being used. So we'll be transparent. The informant and floor plan link is documented in mainstream reporting and legal accounts. The drugging claim is strongly alleged and supported by some accounts, but debated in terms of definitive proof. What is not debated is that the operation did not happen in the dark, it happened with information. 4:30 a.m., the entry begins, police force the front door. The sound isn't a single bang, it's layered, wood splitting, boots moving, commands, then gunfire. In the front area, Mark Clark is hit early. He reaches for a shotgun before being shot through the heart. In a small space, sound becomes pressure, plaster breaks. The air changes, people register what's happening in fragments. Someone shouting, someone crawling, someone trying to locate where the shots are coming from. The floor plan matters here. The map clearly identified the bedroom of Fred Hampton, and officers fire into that apartment with the knowledge that Hampton is there. Deborah Johnson, also known as Aquan Jerry, later describes being beside him, pregnant, and hearing the gunfire tear through the room. Her recollection includes hearing voices that indicated Hampton's condition after the initial shooting. We're told this was a firefight, but later examinations found a different pattern. The overwhelming majority of shots came from police weapons. Reports that ballistics experts found all but one of the bullets fired in the apartment came from police weapons. That matters because it tells you the direction of the violence, the ending, and the story that begins immediately afterward. When the gunfire stops, Hampton and Clark are dead. The surviving Panthers are arrested, and within hours the official narrative is presented as if the apartment had been a nest of aggression, but the physical evidence would later tell a different story.
State's Attorney Edward Hanrahan gave an official account of the raid to the press.
As soon as Sergeant Daniel Groth and officers James Davis, who were leading our men, announced their office, occupants of the apartment attacked them with shotgun fire. The officers immediately took cover. The occupants continued firing at our policemen from several rooms within the apartment. Thereafter, 3 times, Sergeant Groth ordered all his men to cease firing and told the occupants to come out with their hands up. Each time, one of the occupants replied, "Shoot it out," and continued firing at the police officers.
The press at the beginning had taken Hanrahan's line. This was a shootout. 200 shots were fired. The Panthers fired half of them. Nobody was really challenging that except a young Sun-Times reporter by the name of Brian Boyer, who went down there and he saw the evidence. And it didn't take a genius to look at what was there and see that all the bullets were going in one direction, and all those bullet holes were pointing towards Fred Hampton's bedroom, and the middle bedroom where Verlina and Doc Satchel and everyone was.
Conflicting descriptions of the raid made headlines in the Chicago papers. State's Attorney Hanrahan supported his account with photographs intended to prove the Panthers had fired at the police.
We went, took those pictures, and saw they weren't what they appeared to be. The back door, the circles around the bullet holes, they turned out to be nail heads. We went and we saw that they were nail heads because we had possession of the apartment. As far as the door that the Panthers were really supposedly firing into, that turned out to be the bedroom door, and it was a door that the police had made into Swiss cheese with their machine gun bullets.
The controversy grew.
This blatant act of legitimatized murder strips all credibility from law enforcement. In the context of other acts against militant blacks in recent months, it suggests an official policy of systematic repression.
The Black Panthers preach every day, hate, kill Whitey, kill the police, kill the pigs, hate, hate, hate. That's all you hear from them. They expect those police officers to walk into that apartment with pea shooters? You've seen the guns that were there. What were they there for?
In the weeks that followed, public pressure led to a series of investigations. An FBI ballistics expert established that all but one of the more than 90 shots had been fired by the police. All charges against the Panthers were dropped. No police were indicted. But the families of Hampton and Clark and the survivors of the raid sued the government for violation of their civil rights. Years later, the case was closed when federal and local governments and the police agreed to an out-of-court settlement of $1.8 million. The scope of the FBI counterintelligence program, COINTELPRO, began to emerge in 1971 after political activists broke into an FBI office in Media, Pennsylvania. Stolen FBI files documented extensive FBI operations against U.S. citizens and organizations, including traditional civil rights groups. Amid growing criticism of the counterintelligence program, President Richard Nixon reaffirmed his support for the FBI during graduation ceremonies at the Bureau's National Academy.
After the raid, Cook County State's Attorney Edward Hanrahan holds a press conference describing what happened as if officers walked into a storm of gunfire. Hanrahan publicly framed the Panthers as vicious aggressors, but then people step into the apartment and look, and what they see doesn't match. In the years that follow, investigators and journalists highlight discrepancies, like purported bullet holes that turned out to be nail heads. There's something almost poetic in that, in a dark way. The state trying to turn construction debris into justification. Meanwhile, the deeper story takes time to surface. The existence of COINTELPRO becomes widely known after a 1971 break-in at an FBI office in Pennsylvania, exposing documents showing the FBI's secret campaign against activists and political groups. And as legal work continues, more details come into view: how information moved between agencies, how narratives were maintained, and how the raid fit into a broader pattern of targeting. The point here isn't to overstate what can't be proven, it's to show what was uncovered: a combination of documented FBI goals, documented informant activity, documented misrepresentation, and ballistics that contradicted the shootout story. So the public story begins to split into two layers: the layer said out loud for cameras, and the layer written down for files. And once that split becomes visible, it forces one last question: if no one was truly held criminally responsible, what did justice even look like afterward? Because the aftermath isn't only grief, it's courtrooms, settlements, and a number that tries quietly to put a price on what happened. A life can't be replaced, everyone knows that, and yet the legal system, when it finally responds, often speaks in numbers. Hampton and Clark's families, along with survivors, file a civil lawsuit. After years of litigation, the case is settled in 1982 for $1,850,000 paid by the U.S. federal government, Cook County, and the city of Chicago. That settlement is sometimes described as historic in scale for a civil rights case of its time, and it carried competing interpretations. Attorneys for the plaintiffs framed it as meaningful acknowledgement of conspiracy. Government attorneys said it was not an admission of wrongdoing. Those two statements can live side by side because the law often functions that way. It resolves without confessing. But step back and feel the shape of it. 13 years after the raid, a check arrives, paper replaces breath, a courthouse tries to close a wound that never truly closes, and still the settlement matters not as a fix, but as a signal that the official story could not hold the test of time, that evidence, persistence, and organizing even under pressure can force cracks into a wall. Because Fred Hampton wasn't only a victim of that night, he became a symbol of what happens when a movement threatens to unify against the powerful. And that's why his story doesn't stay in 1969. It repeats itself in surveillance methods, in media framing, in the fear of coalition, in the language of law and order that can sound calm while doing violent work. Different decades, different names, same reflex. And to understand what truly survived December 4th, we have to look at the legacy Hampton built that the state couldn't fully erase.
We're not a self-defense group in the limited fashion that you usually think of self-defense groups. I would like to use an example when Fidel Castro started the revolution along with Che Guevara, with 12 of them all together. They realized that they wouldn't be able to topple the oppressive regime in Cuba. What they were essentially was an educational body. They engaged with the army, they fought with the army, and they showed the people that the army was not bulletproof, that the police were not bulletproof, and that Batista's regime was not a regime that was impossible to topple. So the people started to feel their strength. The Black Panther Party feels very much the same way. We think that this educational process is necessary, and it's the people that will cause the revolution, and it's the people that will cause the change in the country. The Black Panther Party is simply the vanguard of the revolution, and we plan to teach the people the strategy and the necessary tools to liberate themselves.
No more brothers in jail. Off the pig. The pigs are gonna catch hell. Off the pig. No more brothers in jail. Off the pig. The pigs are gonna catch hell. Off the pig. No more brothers in jail. Off the pig. The pigs are gonna catch hell. Off the pig. No more brothers in jail. Off the pig. The pigs are gonna catch hell. Off the pig. No more brothers in jail. Off the pig. The pigs are gonna catch hell. Off the pig. No more brothers in jail. Off the pig. The pigs are gonna catch hell. Off the pig. No more pigs in our community. Off the pig. No more pigs in our community. Off the pig. No more pigs in our community. Off the pig. No more pigs in our community. Off the pig. No more pigs in our community. Off the pig. No more pigs in our community. Off the pig. No more pigs in our community. Off the pig. No more pigs in our community. Off the pig. No more pigs in our community. Off the pig. No more pigs in our community. Off the pig.
The focus of all of our activities is Huey P. Newton and the need and the demand that he be set free. Because we feel that the only way that Huey can really be taken out of the hands of those who are relentlessly trying to kill him, you see, is for the people to become aware of what this is all about. And this is why I like this idea about film, because people can get to know more about that. They can see things, you know. But the people have to stand up and demand, and they have to understand that they have a right. They have a right to demand that these judicial procedures be carried out in the right manner.
The revolution has come. Off the pig. Time to pick up the gun. Off the pig. The revolution has come. Off the pig. Time to pick up the gun. Off the pig. The revolution has come. Off the pig. Time to pick up the gun. Off the pig. The revolution has come. Off the pig. Time to pick up the gun. Off the pig. The revolution has come. Off the pig. Time to pick up the gun. Off the pig.
The Black Panther Party made a coalition with the Peace and Freedom Party, which is primarily a white group. We see it necessary to fight on two fronts. We must liberate the colony as well as stimulate revolution in the mother country. I think that the revolutionary students played a great part in saving America. If it were not for the white students, the Black Panther Party would react to the racism in the country and therefore respond with racism. White students have been very interested in the past of the foreign policy of the United States. They're demanding that the United States withdraw from Vietnam, stop brutalizing the Vietnamese people, and we feel that the white students should relate and pay more attention to the colonized situation here of the blacks first, because after all, this is home. And they should, this is not to say that they shouldn't denounce America's treacherous actions abroad. I think they can be done at the same time. That it's just a matter of placing emphasis upon the criminal activities of America here in the homeland.
Let's get into the inner workings and the meaning of this. Let's get into the inner workings and the meaning of a black revolution and why black people have a right to take what's theirs. You can read the platform and the program, and it's a basic program, and it simply says exactly what black people have been crying for 400 years. One, we want freedom. We want power to determine the destiny of our own black communities. Two, we want full employment for our people. Three, we want decent housing fit for shelter of human beings. Four, we want an end to the robbery of the black community by the white racist businessman. Five, we want decent education that teaches us about the true nature of this racist, decadent system. Education that teaches us about our true history and our role in the society and the world today. Six, we want all black brothers to be exempt from military service. Seven, 7, we want an immediate end to police brutality and murder of black people. 8, we want all black brothers and sisters held in federal, county, state, city, jails, and prisons to be released because they have not had a fair trial. They've been tried. They've been tried by all white juries who have no understanding of the average reasoning man in the black community. Number 9, this is where Brother Huey is being caught. We just want the courts to make sure we have peers on the jury of people from the black community as defined by their jive constitution, the so-called United States. The 10, summary with the major political objective. That is, we want land, bread, housing, clothing, education, we want justice, we want peace. The major political objectives, we want a black plebiscite, the UN, the black colonial subjects will participate, dealing with, analyzing, projecting politically upon the racist atrocities that have been committed against black people in this nation. So the concept is this, basically. The whole black nation has to be put together as a black army. And we're going to walk on this nation, we're going to walk on this racist power structure, and we're going to say to the whole damn government, stick 'em up, motherfucker. This is a hold-up. We come for what's ours.
Fred Hampton lived only 21 years, but some lives compress time the way stars do. They burn with such intensity that their light keeps moving long after the body is gone. In that brief span, he built what others only debated, programs that answered hunger before it was called a crisis, care before permission, education before approval. He didn't speak about solidarity as an abstraction. He treated it like a blueprint. Feed the children, heal the sick, teach the people, protect one another, then only then aim higher. That was the threat. Connection was the danger. When you move through the story slowly, from memos to operations, from informants to floor plans, from rehearsed statements to the cold geometry of bullet holes, a pattern emerges. Power, when confronted with cooperation, does not negotiate, it prepares.
And the state's attorney's office has reasons to see Fred Hampton in jail. We've got a new state's attorney, you see. And he said already what he thought about people that had different political beliefs than he has. His speeches sound somewhat like those of Hitler, and we know why he wants to see Fred Hampton put in jail. Why do I have a lot of arrests? Because of harassment. Why is that harassment? Because the people that harass me have set up a problem that made me disagree with them violently, and they set up this problem in order to exploit me and other people like me. And why they want to get rid of me? Because I'm saying something that might wake up some other exploited people and some other oppressed people. And if all these people ever get together, then these pigs that are exploiting us, we'll be able to run them into the lake. That's why they want to get rid of us. And it's just, it's sort of like a primary thing with me. I'm the first move that they'll make. I'm a part of the organization. It will be the first organization they'll move on because I happen to be a part of the organization, the Black Panther Party. That is the only organization, in fact, that has came out and stood up loud and clear and said that we don't care what anybody says, whether they have guns or not and badges or 18 uniforms. If whenever they step outside the bounds of legality into the bounds of illegality, then we'll blow their brains out if they're bothering the people. And what makes them mad about that? They're constantly bothering the people. Anybody that's out there for the protection of the people happens to be in direct conflict with them. What makes them mad about it? What makes them mad about it is that they had black people and white poor people and red poor people and Puerto Rican poor people and Latin American Puerto Rican people of poor people of all descents. They had them caught up in movements based on racism when the Black Panther Party stood up and said that we don't care what anybody says. We don't think you fight fire with fire best, we think you fight fire with water best. We're going to fight racism, not with racism, but we're going to fight it with solidarity. We said we're not going to fight capitalism with black capitalism, but we're going to fight it with socialism. We stood up and said we're not going to fight reactionary pigs and reactionary state's attorneys like this and reactionary state's attorneys like Hanrahan with any other reactions on our part. We're going to fight their reactions where all of us people are getting together and have an international proletarian revolution. Right on. Right on. And that's saying, you heard the testimony of pigs here. You got pigs of all colors, you know that. You got pigs that are white, you got pigs that are black, you even got pigs that are black and white. Propagating the same type of madness that this buffoon Hanrahan would be propagating if he were here himself. And why? Because they want to keep you to believing that I'm your enemy, and that everybody else that's black and that wears a lot of hair on his head and hair on his face, they want to keep you thinking that he's your enemy. Why? Because if ever you would disregard him and overlook him just for a minute and throw away that question of racism and started to dealing with a little logic, then there would be no one else you could attack other than Hanrahan, other than Davy, and other than Tricky Dicky Nixon. Like we always said, if you actually make a commitment at the age of 20, and you say, I don't want to make that commitment only because for the simple reason that I'm too young to die, I want to live a little bit longer, what you did already. You have to understand that people have to pay the price for peace. If you dare to struggle, you dare to win. If you dare not to struggle, then goddamn it, you don't deserve to win. Let me say peace to you if you're willing to fight for it. Let me say it in the spirit of liberation. I've been gone for a little while. At least my body's been gone. You ain't got to repeat after me. At least my body's been gone for a little while. But I'm back now, and I believe that I'm back to stay. I believe that I'm going to do my job, and I believe that I was born not to die in a car wreck. I don't believe I'm going to die in a car wreck. I don't believe I'm going to die from slipping on a piece of ice. I don't believe I'm going to die because I got a bad heart. I don't believe I'm going to die because of lung cancer. I believe that I'm going to be able to die what I was in the thing that I was born for. I believe that I'm going to be able to die high off the people. I believe that I will be able to die as a revolutionary in the international revolutionary proletarian struggle. And I hope that each one of you will be able to die in the international proletarian revolutionary struggle, or even be able to live in it. And I think that struggle is going to come. Why don't you live for the people? Why don't you struggle for the people? Why don't you die for the people?
Listen closely and the story reveals itself. This was never only about what happened to Fred Hampton, it was about what he pointed toward. A future where the poor, black, brown, white recognize one another. A future where solidarity stopped being symbolic and started becoming operational. That future frightened people, enough to try to erase it, but ideas once shared are difficult to bury. They wait, they take root, they hold the ground together quietly, stubbornly, long after the storm has passed.